a popular 1997 IP coming around for a card game again by Bandai Namco. We're talking Digimon today. Welcome to Dude, Where's My Cards? My name is Brendan, and I'm with my co-host Jordan. Today we're going to be talking about Digimon Card Game 2020. So a little about me and Jordan first. We're both frequent game designers. We frequently work on our own games. We frequently play lots of games.
Yeah, big fan of the card game strategy-based. Pretty much anything with that strategy word in it has us locked.
Yeah, so a lot of what we're wanting to do with this podcast is talk about games that we enjoy, could enjoy, or would enjoy from a designer standpoint. And while a lot of these games might be on the more popular side of things, we really want to uncover a lot of the unpopular things, a lot of the unknown heroes of the genre that
the hidden gems, yeah.
People could really sink their teeth into and actually enjoy, but they never got the proper exposure they deserve because they're probably on Kickstarter, probably had a small funding goal, probably got 250 people that love the game.
And we want to find a few more. And up-and-coming ones, too. Ones that aren't out yet. Hopefully we can get a peek at in the future.
Yeah. So I guess a little history on the Digimon card game. What do we got?
This is, like Brennan said in the little teaser, originally came out as an IP in 1997. Lots of us know and love the original animation when it came over. This is its fifth attempt at becoming a viable card game. This is the CCG style collectible card games for those coming out. The one thing I really enjoyed about this IP's release is that they have a companion app that they released with it. It allows you to get half decks, starter decks, and give a feel for it. It's not really an app after you've played it.
It's pretty good though. I've done that too, and it
gets you an idea of what are the three starter decks kind of fit your feel before you sink some money into it, which I really appreciate from a CCG standpoint.
And I also appreciate that the rules are actually quite well executed by the app, so you aren't confused when things happen, which is very important with CCGs in particular because there can be lots of keywords, lots of
variation from an app to the real life game, and this is identical in every aspect. I agree. It was really well put together. So next feel, we kind of wanted to give a breakdown of what we like. We wanted to look at the game from, like Brennan had said, not just a gameplay perspective, but the actual depth and imagery to the game itself.
Yeah, and so in order to do that, we've come up with our own rubric of how we wanted to score a game. Almost every category we've rated out of 5, except for two important categories to it, which are gameplay and replayability. Because in a strategy game world, if you're only going to play it once, what's the point playing it again, or continue to play, or even purchasing it? In all honesty, just you don't want a game. Yeah, you don't want a game where it's you play it once and you go, well, thanks friend for buying that. I know I don't need it anymore.
It's happened a couple times. Okay,
yes, it happens more often than not, but that's the fun of the genre.
So our rubric has, a final score rating of 50. So we have a few different categories. Brennan and I just kind of go back and forth. We haven't seen each other's ratings, so we're going to try to blind test it to each other and see what we thought. Really, the first category for us is that impression category. What did we initially think? The first one there's theme.
Yep.
And so, Brendan, out of 5, would you give yourself a theme for the Digimon 2020 CCG?
It's
5.
Digimon. You could have done Pokemon. You could have done, I don't play Yu-Gi-Oh!, but these themes to me are just so attractive because of younger Brendan.
That's fair.
It could have been Beyblade. If they said this is a functional Beyblade card game, I'd have been like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I had to agree. I gave it a 4. I'm a little bit more forgiving or not so willing to give out those 5s yet in the first episode, but I gave it 4, and again because Digimon's a childhood classic for me. This is one of the first animated series I think I watched.
I don't know, you see a War Greymon pop on the screen. How do you not go, this is a 5?
Yeah. I agree with that. It had to go up there. Pretty much the same settings.
Getting the hands on the pre-release cards and opening these things, and it's just like, oh, Metal Machine Dramon. Sweet. Is he very good? Probably not. Open another one. Omnimon. Nice. Open another one. Omnimon. Holy crap.
It was fun. It definitely is exciting with all the cards, and that's where we kind of go to a little bit in the design and art department there. So when you were opening the cards, when we got our first real look at these cards, what did you rate them for the design and the layout of these actual cards?
This to me is also a 5.
this is where I'll agree. 100% I had to give this a 5.
And this was even before I got my hands on the cards. The first time I saw pictures of them, I went, these are nice. Mm-hmm. The art is good. The layout is good.
Really looking at the art, for me, it's not just a rip-off of the previous CCG that they released. It's a complete rebranding, complete relook. And the design, like you said, the layout of the cards, the fact that they have those little added abilities right at the bottom corner that you overlap on top of each other in a very seamless way.
Once you figure out that you need to do that anyways, because sometimes you don't, and you're like, oh, I should have done that. But for me, the biggest part was just the functionality of the card. Like, as you said, with the space on the bottom that you overlap cards, the important information is very obvious in the top left for cost of card, for the memory cost of the card, and the top right was the damage. And that's all the game is worrying about how to play a card and what it's going to do.
Yeah, and I like that single stat, that 1 damage, 1 defense statistic really makes the card look clean. So I agree with that 100%. When we were looking at this a little further, what did you think for the rules when we started diving in, not just how the cards looked?
So I, when we first discovered this, pretty much the day after pre-release, and we were super angry that we couldn't
the 28th of November.
And we're looking into trying to get a pack, and it was just like, oh, the people have already put them online for double the cost. This is fantastic. It's nearly impossible to get a good deal on that. But I really went online. I tried to find the fan versions of their rule translations, and learning from that, it wasn't bad. But there were some terms that weren't very clear, and even now in the rule book, if you were to start, it's a little gray in some areas. But in the overall sense of how do you play the game, there are the beginning with your hatching phase, do whatever the heck you want.
Yeah.
And then you end your turn and give your opponent memory, or you give your opponent memory and pretty much end your turn. It's just how it goes.
The same with me. I kind of went...
To me, I give it a 4, by the way.
Oh, perfect. Okay, yes. That's what I got. I also have a 4. Good. To me, it really stood out, and I think it probably would have agreed with you. It would have been a little bit lower just for the initial read-through of the rules, if it wasn't for, like I had said previously, that companion app. That really just visual tie-in of rules, and all that app is really is to teach you the game.
The rules... It's not like the rules were unclear.
Yeah.
I thought the rules are actually quite good. It's when I got to the terminology in the back that was describing what each of their key terms meant, that some of them were not clear. I had to really dig to find out that the Digivolve abilities that are inheritable by cards only can be inherited by the current unit.
Not the one that...
The unit that's in play does not get its own inheritable unit. And you don't know that unless you've been very thorough on your first read-through, or...
That's true. And that kind of goes to the design a little bit, I guess, when I think about it. It's very confusing if you don't have a full understanding of what each box of the design is. But once you get it, it's so easy.
If you know Digimon, you go, oh yeah, this makes sense. I Digivolve, and because I Digivolved, I get this added bonus in some situations. And it's just... the rules and the theme go well with the art, and I'm not going to complain about that when there's a lot worse games out there that we have played, and we've picked up a rule book and gone, holy crap.
No, we'll have a few, I'm sure, in the future as well. So the last kind of impression category for us, what was the initial complexity rating for this game? So for us, we kind of gave, if it has a higher score, the complexity fit the style of game and fit what we were expecting and looking for from it. Was the right amount, I guess, is a higher rating for us. So for me, I said this one is a 4. It has a very easy to understand resource system and combat system, but at the same time, there's enough choices to be made on that turn that even that simple system is still very complex when you're trying to tie things together.
And I think depth is the better word you're looking for there. When you're saying it's complex, that means it's difficult rather than... depth.
True. Okay.
More ability to play with it. I don't know. That's how I feel anyways. I put it as a 5 complexity personally.
It's perfectly fitting what you were expecting.
Yeah, honestly, I played it once, and I was able to explain to you and our group of friends how to play it pretty much the next day, and everyone jumped on board and said, yeah, okay, we got this. The only complex part of it, if you will, was understanding the resource system.
Or the inheriting system was also a little bump we had to go over.
When I know and I say, hey, these stack together and only the ones underneath count as inheritable skills, you go, oh, okay.
Yeah, but the initial, just thinking of our initial gameplay, it was always a question.
Yeah, but I mean, I would say it's complex for the resource system, but it wasn't actually complex. It was just the most complex of all the simple things.
Yes. Okay, no, that's pretty straightforward. We kind of go to our actual game category. What we have here is our gameplay and our depth, which Brendan was mentioning previously. So gameplay is one of our highest rated system because it's the overall enjoyment of the whole game itself. So really, this is the big pointer for us. And for me, I the more we talk about it, the more it kind of refreshes the feeling. I think I underrated it a little bit on the initial gameplay. I have it as a 7 for myself.
I also have a 7.
Okay, but
it's kind of funny because we've talked about this game a lot, and I think when we first were initially getting into it, we're both like balls deep.
Yeah,
like let's do this, and
it took a little back burner just because of everything with COVID. And,
I think COVID has kind of put a damper on it for me.
And not being able to see each other kind of put a damper on it. But now that I'm talking
after doing
about
our own design stuff since then, like I'm still firm on my 7.
Yeah, I talking about it excites me again, which makes me want to play it. But I guess it's the actual gameplay. It's got a lot of good systems to it, and some new systems to it. But again, it kind of falls into that category of I like the game a lot, but it's a CCG. So either I'm going to sink a lot of money and continue liking this and forego every other game, or it just sits in it's a good game to play.
And my thing is, I look at it, if this was any other IP that someone had not heard about, is this a game I'd be interested in?
Okay, going from if rebrand, like reskin it.
There's interesting aspects to it. My problem with why I rated it a 7 for gameplay, because it's fun, but when you get down to the competitive decks that people are already playing and coming out with and the style of gameplay, it's pretty much the same thing. Board control, board control, one turn KO. Because the revenge system for when you attack a damage and it flips over a mega unit and attacks you back and kills you completely discourages any early aggression, except for decks that specifically
focus on
that and say, screw this, we're going all in. If we lose the game because of unlucky aggression, then whatever. So that to me makes the gameplay come down
for you,
just because no matter what deck you play, it's ultimately the same.
And that's why I think I have a little lower on the 7-2, is really the game is still brand new. We're in one set. So I can't say that it's the best game out there because it's going to constantly be changing. Yeah. And there's not enough, I guess, material for me to judge it fully. Which is really
the material that's there is enjoyable.
Yeah, but it's going to change. And there's a new set coming out in a few months too. So it's hard for me to say it's going to be really good. Everyone should dive into this, have fun with this, when there's not enough material really to give it a solid yes or no.
And to me, like, I'm very much still a social gamer when it comes to these kind of games. Yeah. So for me to jump in and do this, I want to go to the local card store. I want to talk with the people there. I want to talk to other players who are playing the game.
Yeah, it's not so much
and enjoy the community of it. Like, for me right now, because of the whole COVID lockdown situation, it's, all right, I have these cards. Great. Like,
it's hard, even with a small group, it's hard to really enjoy a true CCG environment if you're always playing with the same 4 people against the same 4 decks.
So yeah, that is a big thing. And right now there's only 6 colors? 5?
Red, yellow, blue, purple, black,
green. So there's 6, and then there's the dual colors that exist within the game. So that gives you essentially 6 meta options for each color. And then depending on what cards are powerful, some colors may be irrelevant in the meta.
Yeah. And there's not that many themes. It's an early CCG. It just came out. So that's why I have it on the lower side for me. For the depth portion of the game, I smack dab put it right in the middle. Again, because there's not that many themes out there. So there's not that many depth. There's not a crazy amount of combinations for me. So
and that's what I put it at. I put it as a 3 as well. For the exact reason I mentioned before, which was it's the same game over and over again. Doesn't matter if it's quick. Doesn't matter if it's fun. It's you go in, okay, I have these cards. I play them. Oh, my opponent didn't kill me. Oh, I can one-shot him now for the game.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that in the future that, as you said, with new cards, new releases, that depth will slightly increase because new options will become available. Because that's one thing to say, yes, I have a great game that can play in under 10 minutes. But then you're instantly thinking, how deep can the game be? How meaningful are your strategic decisions?
Or are you just hoping to draw the right cards and then call it a game? my game revolves around 3 cards.
I
Play
mean,
it
how
like
many
that.
times have we played the game online and it's been like, oh, my first 3 draws all suck. I can't digivolve into a 3 or a 4 and get that draw power going.
Yeah.
And your opponent slaps a Mega on his first turn. You say, well, GG, like you've got board control.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, there are some fun combos, don't get me wrong. Like, I love playing my Rust Tyrannomon and attacking a player directly and just taking out all of his units and then being like, oh, what do you do? But that's...
Or running the aggro reds to double take out their defenses. It's fun. There's combinations there. It's not enough yet for me to say it's really, really got some deep depth to it.
From a design aspect, I think it's interesting looking at the abilities of the cards, just seeing how they interact with the other cards or the resource system. That to me is always the most fascinating part of card games, specifically CCGs, TCGs, is watching what's your win condition, how do your cards help you get there.
Yeah.
And in Digimon, the win condition is dealing damage, but how do you get there is using your Digimon to control the board. The only way they really have an impact on the damage is by attacking it.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping in the future, a yellow kind of plays around with that already with healing, or the idea of healing. I'm hoping there's going to be some way in the future that you can purposely damage yourself to get some kind of effect.
Yeah.
And just more dynamic ways to, or something that more involves with the resource system, even though the resource system is pretty good. Let's be honest.
It definitely is one of my favorite parts of the game, hands down. It's the resource system. It's, like it said earlier, it's not something completely new. I know Naruto Shippuden, that CCG, had done a very similar system to this. But it's the first time that I was interacting with the system personally and playing it. So it felt new to me, and it felt like it was really smooth and flowed so well with the actual gameplay itself.
Well, it just made sense thematically as well.
Yeah.
Like calling stuff memory. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I can see how this works.
So our post-play category, was kind of looks back at our second highest category as well, which is replayability and cost satisfaction, how happy we were with the purchase. So initially with replayability, Brendan, what did you put?
I'm going straight back to my 7.
Okay.
For the exact same reasons, the gameplay and replayability match up to me. The gameplay is good, but not great. So I would go back and play with some friends if they were new, but I wouldn't push it any further than that.
Okay.
And it's not something I'm dying to play. Like when we first discovered it, my replayability for it was a 10. Like I wanted to dive in and I wanted to know everything, but once you get past that initial shock or the initial awe phase, you kind of go, okay, there's not as much here as I was hoping for, but it's still a good game.
It's still there. For me, I have the replayability at that 8 because, I'm much more of a ride things for a long time, play a little bit. I'm a very good dabbler. So for me, when I look at the game, it's great. The replayability for me is super high because I'm also not looking at meta decks. I'm just looking at what's fun. Which
is also easy when there's only one expansion or one set out.
So right now it's just I look at it and I see what we can play with as a small group. And I say, there's still a lot of replayability for me because I haven't dived into meta. When you start looking at these meta decks and it starts narrowing that field is where gameplay falls off for me. It's same like we can look at the classic games like Magic. For me, it's about
playing what's fun to you, not necessarily spending money on the best cards. And
Magic for me is my favorite game, but not because of its competitive aspect. And I would love to see games, and maybe Digimon will get there, where it's got a competitive aspect that's fun to me. So I have it at an 8 just because right now I'm still pretty eager to play it. Like if somebody says you want to play it, I will.
Yeah.
Especially right now because I haven't played a physical game.
Yeah. I wouldn't turn it down if someone said, do you want to play? But it's not like it was before with me where I was jumping into every online game I could find just to sink my teeth in to see how much was actually there.
Yeah. And that's, again, your designer aspect if you really wanted to break it down for you.
Yeah, that's my thing. Like, I'm very analytical. Like, I like diving into metas. I like seeing why people are making certain decisions. Like, when metas first started to be developed in North America, people started calling additional cards to their deck tech cards.
Okay.
So you have your core 30, 35 cards, and you leave the extra left for tech cards. Cards that are specifically used for certain situations and certain counters against certain other meta decks. And I was always very interested to see what people decided for their tech cards, why that was important to them. And to me, that, like, analytically, I look at it and I go, okay, so, but if you compare that to the resource system, like, how does that interact that way? Just to me, that's all a numbers game. And I don't know. When I like a resource system, I like to dive in and really pick apart, is this as good as I think it is?
Yeah.
Or is it just something that's so simple that you go, I like this. Okay.
And I think it's up there. So the cost satisfaction part. So
I've got a story.
There's a key. There's a key here for
mine's got a key too. So
my key is that like I actually haven't spent a dime on the game yet.
Well,
Brendan has.
Yes.
Technically. So, but I'm trying to look at it in an aspect of like, okay, if I was to, how comfortable price range is it for me? If I'm looking at the retail price, not the resale.
Yes.
Retail for me right now is appropriate. Like I think the starter decks for like $15.
Yeah, and I think they come with a free booster pack in them.
And then the actual booster boxes were like 117 or 115 on some Canadian on some of the sites that I was looking at originally when they first came out. That's very reasonable for me. So for cost satisfaction, I put it in the middle. Why again I put it at 3 in the middle for me is because ultimately what kicks it, even though the pricing is really good, is that it is still a CCG, which means that I'm still going to have to spend a minimum of $150 just to get a competitive-esque deck.
Yeah, 150. Anything that cut you at this point.
Yeah, right. So what's your take on it? I have it at a 3. I put it right kind of in the middle, and that's with a caveat of saying only retail pricing.
I also have it at a 3.
Okay.
But my reasoning is similar, but also slightly different. Yes, the cards were expensive to buy, but being a Digimon IP instantly adds to the satisfaction of the cards you are getting, because it's instantly open, it's nostalgic, it's cool, it's fun.
Mm-hmm.
But when you turn to practicality sides of things, if I didn't pull the cards that I did, like I got 2 Omnimons and 1 Full Art Omnimon, that right there is like $400 worth of cards.
Yeah.
If I don't pull those and I pull poor cards instead, like that means that I just spent how much on booster box? I mean, it's any like this with any CCG game. Like, let's be honest, it's all about luck of the draw.
So your rating's higher because of what you pulled in a way as well too.
Yes, but I mean, it's still a bit of 3. Like I would think if I were to sell the cards that I got, I make profit.
Yeah.
So that right there should be cost satisfaction. But at the same time, if I want to play the fun cards in the game, it costs quite a bit. Mm-hmm. So to me, this actually would have been a 4 or a 5 for. Or I guess the other way around, it would have been a 1 or a 2. It would have been scoring low. I would have, because I mean, CCGs always are going to score low to me for cost satisfaction, because at the time you're going all in. You think this is the greatest idea in the world, and then 7 years later you turn around and you're like, holy crap, I've spent $10,000 on this game.
Well, the other reason, Digimon especially, has had a very short-lived shelf life previously. So 7 years might be generous. You might not even have an IP anymore after 7 years.
I played a lot of Vanguard. You know I played a lot of Vanguard.
That's true.
I still have like 50,000 cards in my closet. I've probably spent 10 grand on that game, and
so you're okay with dying IPs?
It's still going strong. It's just not a North American IP, and that's okay. I've come to terms with the fact that I'm never getting my money back. It's not like Yu-Gi-Oh or Pokemon where you can still sell some cards and gain some value back. I held them, and the game evolved, and I stopped playing, and years later they're useless.
Yeah,
that's what it is. But for me, the reason why I have it at a 3, because I got to balance out that one with a 5. I think the quality of game you get out of a $15 starter deck is extremely good value. And I would tell anyone that wants to play this game, buy a starter decks, buy all the starter decks, have some fun with your friends. And if you really decide at that point after playing through the game that you really want to go gung-ho, that's when you go gung-ho.
Yeah.
Because after playing the online app, like, those are only half decks.
Yeah.
But it gives you a really good sense of the gameplay and what it could be like. Mm-hmm. The starter decks give you just more cards, the more rares, the more cards that have better abilities. Combos gets you a little bit deeper of a taste, which is why I'd say get those and play the game.
And at that $15 mark, and this is why I have my satisfaction higher, is, again, those starter decks are such a reasonable price. It's all in one. It's like most of those CCGs out there. I think if it didn't have that CCG label on it and it was just like, here's, spend $30 for a 2-player head-to-head game, it would probably rate really high. But when I look at the long term of having to buy all the cards,
I mean, I also think it's a bit of marketing genius putting a booster pack into the starter decks.
Oh, yeah?
Because if someone hits on one of that, if you hit an Omnimon out of that,
you're suddenly building a deck around it.
No, you're not just suddenly building a deck out of it. You're going, oh yeah, I'm going all in on this game. Like, yeah, look what I just got, boys. Like, we're going.
Okay, yeah, so...
Like, it's just a way to rope you in a little bit more. Like, if you weren't totally sure whether or not you should be roped in or not, all it takes is that one lucky pull, and suddenly you're the Digimon guy.
Like you are right now.
Yeah, well, I was excited at the beginning, but it has worn off.
So for overall final score for Digimon Card Game, TCG 2020, I have it a 38 out of 50, which I think is a very reasonable rating for myself for
And the
CCG.
only difference I have is because I was a little bit more generous on my 5 with themes, so I have 39.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
So we were pretty fair. We felt the same way about this game. Overall, simple rules, easy to learn. Overall design was really cool. I like the stacking when you digivolve things.
Yep.
The resource system I thought was
The
simple,
resource system
fun.
to me was the shining star of this, even though, as you say, it's kind of based off of a Naruto game.
Yeah, which, I mean, theme-wise, I think it fits a little bit better than Naruto. Naruto's got it's a time slide rather than memory. Really, the things that brought it down, not giving it the 50 for me, is it's a CCG. It's the investment into the game is incredible, and there's people out there which you can get the game, and lots of people love that collectible aspect of it.
I love the collectible aspect of it. I just don't want to afford the collectible aspect of it.
And yeah, the cost comes down. Like it's awesome. I understand it, but for me, I've always been more of the person who's into a gameplay rather than I would rather have every card cost $1 and access to everyone. Like I'm more of that living card game or expanding card game rather than this. Even though I play a lot of the CCGs, it's just the cost always negs me for the downside.
Well, I mean, the advantage of playing all those collectible card games, even though you're paying the price as a designer, there's tons of information entering your brain and you're always thinking, what could I do better? Not within the game, but you always have that in the back of your mind. If I were to recreate this game, what could I do better?
And one more major issue for me for this game is when looking at a lot of these newer CCGs' balance issues, is how balanced will this game be in a set or two?
Creep be?
Where's the creep going to be? Is it going to be there's one card or one deck? It really is how well is Bandai going to do at monitoring their game to make sure that they have a ban list and a control list to make sure that it's still fun at that competitive level, which is where I'm
See, and the important thing about mentioning that is the OCG in Japan is already several sets ahead because they were the first ones to get releases. So North American English players do have access to information of what cards are coming, what metas are developing out of Japan. So we know what's coming, we know what's powerful.
yeah.
The problem is that the OCGs, historically, across the board in every game that has started in Japan first, has always done a better job at moderating ban lists.
Than our North American side, yeah.
Because one of the games we're going to be talking about eventually died in North America because the ban list was not managed nearly as well as the OCG.
Yeah. Okay.
And because of the overpoweredness, the game died.
Okay.
But I'm just saying on a general note, OCGs do a good job with banning. North American games do not.
Okay, and that's
And
worries.
that's up to Bandai, though. If Bandai can...
That's Bandai, where you said
Get
North
on
American
board.
Bandai.
Yes.
Which worries me because it's not like a Wizards. It's not somebody who has experience. Not to say that Wizards has always done it right either, because we have a few
Bandai
like that.
has experience. It's just not the experience you want.
Yeah, you're right. So our final little thing, Brennan's got a good little tidbit, whether we would cash or trash this game, whether it was worth your money or you should just not bother spending it. I personally have a to be determined on it right now because of, again, the caveat, like we said, the sets are incredibly hard to get a hold of right now. So if you're trying to get a hold of it, you're buying it third party and you're buying it at like a 200% inflation cost. So right now, it's really hard to get in.
Well, not to mention for us, you're paying shipping fees as well and custom fees when it comes in.
Everything
so you tack on
else,
an extra 20% that other people aren't.
And even when you pre-order these games, like I pre-ordered the first release, which is coming out right now in January. I've pre-ordered a booster box in every one of the starter decks, and I've been told that my local game store doesn't have enough stock for me. Even though they submitted it to it because it was limited release, they had to reject it. So right now it's really hard to get your hands on. So I wouldn't say it's worth spending the 200% inflation cost.
Oh yeah, for sure not.
But when this comes back around and it's in stock everywhere at $15 and even $120 for a box or something, and it's $5 for the packs, like totally worth doing a small investment to see if it's your type of game. I definitely think you'll never regret buying these starter decks.
Like I have it as cash just on the notion of the starter decks.
Yeah.
You could go all in with all. I think there's only 3 to begin with, and the next 3 starter decks will come out. So at $15 each, that's $90 for all the decks.
Yeah.
And you get booster packs with them, and you can pretty much get the full game experience without the refinement to perfected decks.
Yeah, which
is the fun
sometimes
part
is
of
the
the
fun
game.
part. Yeah.
And you can do all that for $90. And you look at board games now, like what are board games starting to cost? Games that we really enjoy. I mean, we like hitting that $30, $40 price range for enjoyable games, but let's be honest, a lot of the games are starting to get to that point where there's $70, $80. And for $45, you're getting the 3 starter decks. You're playing some good card game fun.
Yeah.
You get to $90, you've got the variations in your good card game fun.
And then even if you don't go any further, like I said, I would never regret. I will be picking up the
Set
starter
for
decks, hands
$45,
down.
just have 3 of them to pull it with friends occasionally. That to me is worth the value right there, and why I've given it cash.
Yep, and I'll say cash right now, but it's really to be determined for me because I really want to see what that future brings to the game. Like, it's so early that for me to say, yeah, go all in is hard.
And we were lucky as well to be exposed to the pre-release stuff, so we do have a little bit more backing than someone who may be listening and saying, oh, but this game just came out, what's going on with this game?
The pre-release, like Brendan said, came out in November 27th. We found out about it the 28th, and we had decks in hand by December. We were lucky enough that we found a pretty reasonable upscale on eBay that we were able to get our hands on 2 pre-release boxes, which was a good steal. So we got a feel for it. We got a real look at it, and we've played a lot of the digital, our own digital and tabletop to get a true feel of it as well. So... But yeah, okay. Yeah, I would definitely say I'll agree with you on that. Right now it's cash. Just don't be paying that 200% markup that's out there.
No, no game is going to be worth a 200% markup like it is right now. And even with the influx of, I'm not sure if they even did truly release in January yet.
I
could have sworn it was the past week, the 21st or 22nd, that they said the release was, but with COVID going on, who knows what their supply chains are actually like and if they've got stuff out. But it could see a spike in popularity, but if it's not matched by the demand, then prices online are going to go up super high again, possibly even higher than before. Yeah. Because if the hype of the pre-release does what Bandai wanted it to,
it seemed to have,
then prices are going to just be impossible to keep up with, and
you're
going to find people who are going to abuse their connections with game stores, with individuals, to buy 12 or 16 boxes at retail value just to open the contents and sell.
Yeah.
And I've also seen videos of, this is awful, but people are weighing their packs, and it's found that almost a half a gram heavier consistently is your holographic packs.
Really?
I watched one guy open 10 booster boxes, and he picked out every single holographic out of their 100% accuracy.
That's scary. That's kind of weird. That's like a little worrisome.
Yeah. So you can imagine how many people are going to be doing that, or how many game stores possibly could be doing that.
Yeah.
And you buy their open booster boxes that they've opened.
And they've pulled out all the
But really, you have no chance of getting a good card because they've done it.
Yeah. Oh,
so there are very worrisome things going on, but at the same time, get a starter deck, get a couple starter decks.
When they become available,
enjoy the game,
and they're reasonable.
It's cash.
It's a cash. Yeah.
Anything else?
I think that's everything from my thoughts.
All right. Well, yeah. From my thoughts was basically just starter decks, have fun, resource system, dive in. It's Digimon, always a good time.
Yeah. Hopefully you guys didn't mind the first episode too bad.
Yeah. All right, guys. Take care.
See ya.
Thank you for tuning in to the DWMC podcast, a Paragon Professional Services production. We hope you enjoyed the show. If you have any comments or concerns about what you have heard, send us an email, contact@paragonstudiosmb.com. If you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing to the show on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you consume your podcasts, and leave a comment with a 5-star review if you feel so inclined. For those of you watching on YouTube, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and leave a comment below.